Do you think an entrepreneur is born or made? After being a witness and encourager to several people who have made themselves entrepreneurs, I subscribe to the belief that entrepreneurship is a skill that can be learned. And because it is a learned skill, to be successful and excellent at it, you have to practice. But how? Do you just start random startups one after the other until one happens to catch momentum? Taking this more mercenary route might not be the most effective way to achieve your end goal. If the goal is to be an entrepreneur, but you don't really have a startup idea you care about or a problem you are passionate about solving right now, then my message to you is this: don't start a startup, at least not yet. Instead, I'll be offering a more efficient alternative. In this talk, I'll be introducing to you a roadmap for how you can practice the entrepreneurial skill through something called micro projects, projects completed within a short amount of time that yield tangible results. Micro projects are valuable because regardless if you end up pursuing them or not, you provide a solution to an existing problem. You prioritize impacts and you prioritize people, ideally focusing on how you can make something, no matter how small, a little easier for another person. And you learn about the entrepreneurial process while doing so, not by just reading about it, but by practicing it, by doing it. In order to complete a micro project, the first thing you need to embody is that the problem is the heart of the project. The problem is the heart of the project. For the purpose of a micro project, we need to be aware of problems that we could viably provide a solution for in between 1 and 4 weeks. Open your ears to what people are complaining about. Open your eyes to how you see people makeshift solutions. Open your minds to new possibilities and be intentional and proactive to keep a problem journal or notes tab that you can always add to, understanding that there are opportunities all around us, everywhere we go. For example, when I was volunteering at a literacy center and teaching English second language or ESL classes, I noticed that my students were wanting more one-on-one tutor sessions outside of the classroom because they cared so deeply about learning English. But I was just one person, and my schedule alongside being in university quickly became overwhelmed by several tutor sessions. I'd found a problem in my daily life. The ESL class system at most literacy centers lacked individualized attention for students, leaving them to crave more. Once you have a problem, doesn't have to be one you're going to dedicate the next 10 years to solving. You can learn more about it by conducting customer interviews, asking questions to the people who are affected most. I ended up conducting over a dozen interviews with ESL students and literacy directors. It is important to ask open-ended, unbiased questions like, walk me through the last time you went through X process, or explain a pain point during that experience. Then, once you feel like you have a good understanding of the problem, you start to ideate and brainstorm solutions. Be creative and be bold in this process, taking a bunch of sticky notes and prompting yourself with various questions like, what would my solution be if I had $1 million? Or maybe more realistically, if I had no money, if I had to collaborate with NASA on this project. The list goes on as you ideate more and more solutions. And in this step, narrow it down to one potential solution to your problem, but don't get attached to it, understanding that your solution will likely evolve and change. For me, I ideated the solution of fielding college-age volunteers to offer virtual tutor sessions for ESL students enrolled in literacy center classes. With a large amount of volunteers, ESL students could have one-on-one attention and the tutors wouldn't be overloaded. The next part of the micro-project roadmap invites us to write down our assumptions about your solution suggestion. Assumptions are specific I believe statements that are core to your idea, like I believe X number of ESL students enrolled in literacy center classes will want to take 1 hour of one-on-one tutoring per week, or I believe we can require X amount of college students to volunteer as ESL tutors. What assumptions need to be proven correct in order for you to move forward and for your idea to be validated? For the micro project, narrow this assumption to one and move on to testing it. Focus on how you can test it without expending several resources or a lot of time. A test could look like creating a no-code app or website, a pilot program, or a physical prototype. The possibilities are endless. The Write It by Alberto Savoia introduces several different prototyping methods, which are lower fidelity prototypes to test, and I would 10 out of 10 recommend using it for guidance. Personally, I ended up running a pilot program where I organized 4 weeks of ongoing tutor sessions with 22 ESL students involved. After this test was done, I recorded my impacts and reflected on them. From reflection questions that I distributed to both volunteer tutors and ESL students, I learned that the pilot program was valuable to all parties involved. And these insights were informative to literacy center directors who were decision makers in this space. What tangible results did you yield? What did you learn about the problem space and about yourself? What was most challenging? What can you adapt moving forward? After understanding the impacts of your micro project, you are going to assess the next steps. You can do one of two things moving forward. One, you can choose to not continue your project and conclude it by sharing your insights to your LinkedIn followers or in a newsletter. Understanding that building your entrepreneurship community by creating values for others first is key. Or two, you can continue your micro project, extend it to a longitudinal project, and maybe even start a startup. I ended up creating a short-term literacy organization that continued to bridge college students, ESL students through English tutor sessions, adapting from the pilot program that I had originally conducted. If you don't move forward with the project, you keep building your entrepreneurial muscle through more and more challenging micro projects. And if you do, you remember to keep the problem at the heart of your project and scale with intentionality. After being in the entrepreneurial ecosystem for years, I have found one consistent truth. Entrepreneurs are impactful. In fact, I strongly believe that entrepreneurship outside of faith is the greatest and strongest vehicle to improving our modern society today. So I hope that you harness this feeling that you can make yourself an entrepreneur and you are fully capable of improving our world and making an impact. And take the first step. You don't have to go home and start the startup, especially if you don't have a problem space that you care about or are passionate about. But you can go home and take the first step in your training and building your entrepreneurial muscle. Look for problems, ideate solutions, write assumptions, test your assumptions, and share the impacts. Embody a bias towards action and complete your first micro project. And keep taking every step thereafter consistently, so when it's time to start your startup and become an entrepreneur, you'll be ready. Thank you.